Hey, it's the nerdy sports fan. The football schedule has been released. We've had a couple of days to digest it, and now I'm making record predictions based off of the schedule. Now, I don't just go hard at this is definitely a win, this is definitely a loss, all the way through the schedule. I think that's asinine. There are games that you're going to look at and say, well, this could go either way. And I'm going to address that. There are going to be games that I think are definitely a loss or definitely a win. And then we take the toss-up games, kind of average them out, and spit out a record prediction by the end. So let's run through these New York Jets schedule. So Gang Green has had a tough go of it. They got their quarterback of the future. They didn't surround him with Dick the previous offseason. Okay, he did not have an offensive line. They instead spent their money on a gamble on a running back. That didn't work out. Was he a dynamic, wonderful talent to watch? Absolutely. Could he do anything near what he could in Pittsburgh without an offensive line? Absolutely not. So, they tried to address the offensive line, but with a rookie left tackle and not having an off season where these guys can actually get to know each other, that's still a liability. And it's going to be until maybe halfway through the season at the absolute earliest. And the wide receiving core only got worse. Yeah, so there's still a lot of work to do. So one bad off season, in spite of how good I think some decisions were this offseason, you're still behind the eight ball. So, the Jets are looking up at most of the AFC. Starting the season off on a bad foot at Buffalo, that's a loss. Josh Allen and Sam Darnold are, in my mind, pretty level as far as predictive throwing, breaking down defenses. That area of their game, they're pretty much on par right now. Josh Allen is head and shoulders above Sam Darnold athletically. And he's got a better offensive line and just better overall roster talent supporting him. Not to mention, Sean McDermott is proving to be a very solid head coach. And Adam Gase has some question marks. So, yeah, that's definitely a loss. 49ers at home, that's a loss. The 49ers are going to thump a lot of people. The Super Bowl hangover, yes, certainly exists. But that roster is far too talented to lose to a team like the Jets. Just the case. At the Colts, I think this is a bit of a toss-up game, mostly because we really have no idea what Phillip Rivers is going to be. Phillip Rivers, you can make the argument that he just was not afforded the protection that he needs at this stage of his career with his lack of mobility last year with the Chargers, and he would have played far better if given better protection. And now he's going to a team with arguably the best offensive line in the league. So that's good. But he's definitely also nowhere near the quarterback he was a few years ago. Just age is catching up with him. So you really don't know where Rivers is going to be. The rest of the roster is dynamite there in Indy. But quarterback matters so much. And a developing Sam Darnold might be better than a declining Rivers in a significant enough amount to make this a toss-up game. Broncos at home, that's a toss-up. I think the Broncos have probably developed their roster a little bit better than the Jets have. But the Jets are at home, and Sam Darnold is a year further along in his development than Drew Lock is. I think Vic Fangio and Adam Gase is a bit of a push coaching-wise. So there's a lot of things that are just far too close to call in this game, certainly one way or the other. Cardinals, again, toss-up game. Murray is a year away from having it all figured out. And whereas he has a much more dynamic offense, still has a hell of a lot of question marks on defense. We're still not really sure what the coaching staff there is and if they're NFL caliber. We don't know. So, again, toss-up. At the Chargers, that's a toss-up game. Chargers have a lot of question marks in the quarterback room. Okay? Whereas they are absolutely a superior overall roster to the Jets. No questions asked. Defense, offensive personnel in general, far better. Coaching-wise, probably a bit of a push. And as far as quarterback goes, the Jets know who their guy is. The Chargers really don't. They've been saying Tyrod all off season, and then they went ahead and drafted who their actual guy is in Justin Herbert. How early are the Chargers fans, all 5 of them, going to be heralding the coming of Justin Herbert? That can cause a lot of problems for a team. So, whereas the rest of the roster, again, is far superior to what the Jets have, that quarterback question looms large. So, toss-up game. The Bills at home, that's a loss. They do not have questions. They have better coaching. They have a better overall roster. Every area of the team, you can say they are better right now. The Bills are going to win this division. So, at least for another year, you're just going to have to lay back and take it. At the Chiefs. Yeah, that's a loss. Patriots at home. That's a toss-up. The Patriots have still one of the best defensive personnels in the league. That offense was held together with hopes and dreams, and Tom Brady just being Tom Brady. So, whereas they are absolutely spectacular on the defensive side of the ball, they might be a total train wreck on the offensive side of the ball. So this will be a war of attrition. Okay? The Jets won't be able to do much against the defense. The Patriots won't be able to do much to get out of their own way on offense. So, yeah, toss up at best. At Miami, coin flip. Yeah, there's a lot of toss-up games here for the Jets because they're playing a weaker schedule, sure, but they're a weaker team. And Miami's catching up. All right? They didn't have the problem of one bad offseason. They've had 2 good offseasons with a roster that was god-awful, mind you, but they're on their way. And with how good this offseason has been for them, just almost solely based off of having so many first-round draft picks, they definitely caught the Jets at the very least. Miami was the inferior roster last year. They're not this year. A couple of good off seasons in a row does that sort of thing. All right, so then there's a bye, and then you get the Dolphins at home. Now, I think that's definitely a win. Dolphins on the road is one thing. 2 weeks in a row playing these guys? Well, technically, there's a bye week in between, but 2 games in a row playing the same team, and now you have the benefit of having them at home in the second game, that's going to be a win. Okay? These teams are a bit of a push. The home field advantage pushes it over the top. Now, the Raiders. The Raiders are a better team, but you're getting them at home. So, again, kind of coin flip situation. The Seahawks, at the Seahawks, that's a loss. The Seahawks are far superior as a team. They have better coaching, better quarterback play, roster development, top to bottom is better. They're just, yeah. And you're getting them on the road. That's a tough swing. And then at the Rams, that's another loss. The Rams have a lot of salary cap issues. They have roster depth issues, sure. They do not have issues with coaching, knowing who their quarterback is, their quarterback being fully developed yet, or top-end talent. And all of those factors are more than enough to beat the Jets right now. Let's see. Then the Browns at home. Coin flip. We really don't know what Baker Mayfield is. We don't. All right. I think Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield are almost even right now. Mostly because Baker Mayfield had a down year last year. He followed a very good rookie campaign with a crap year two. A lot was put on his shoulders. He had a very young head coach. He still has a very young head coach. Personally, I think they could have benefited by hiring a veteran head coach for young Baker Mayfield to make sure that he doesn't try and dominate the room. But that's just me. I don't see it for the Browns in the way that the national media did last year, and really the way they see it this year. It's a mishmash. It's a hodgepodge. It's a whole bunch of really good parts that don't necessarily fit. That being said, that's about where I see the Jets at right now. So again, push. Finishing the season at the Patriots, it's a toss-up. I would normally put this in the loss category because you're in Foxborough, but again, we have so many questions about what that offense is going to be, and by this point in the season, if Sam Darnold isn't set enough to figure out a Belichick defense at least a little bit, he's never going to. And personally, I think Sam Darnold is at least going to be a slightly above average NFL quarterback. He still has more than enough potential to be better than that. But I think his floor is slightly above average. So his floor is right around where Jared Goff was last season. So looking at this, games that I think are an absolute lock, they're going 1-5 in those games. If you just split the remaining games, all the games that I think that are a toss-up, if you split them down the middle, that puts the Jets at 6-10. Obviously, they have a potential to win far more of those kind of toss-up games. They also have the potential to win far less of them. So their average, where I honestly expect them to be, still probably has them with a top 10 draft pick. And again, that's what happens when you have one bad offseason as a team that's building. You can't have a bad offseason if you're not there. You need to stack good off seasons together. You've got one now in this most recent one, but last year's off season's still hurting you. Maybe next year it's a different story, but just don't see a good season for the Jets this year. Sorry, fellas. Like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Hit up the rest of the videos as I'm making one of these for every single team, starting with the AFC East today and moving on to the other divisions every other day. Thanks for watching, fellas.